Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and today we're going to dive into Richard Dott's book, The 955 Code. So what Richard talks about in this book is not only overcoming your manifestation stuck points, but also how you're spending your time. So truly the premise of the book is that 5% of your time, usually on a given day, is spent doing actual techniques looking to make changes in your life, your state, or your identity. But what you're doing this other 95% can truly prevent you from making the changes you're looking to make, or prevent you from up-leveling into the type of person that you want to be, living this remarkable life that you want to lead. And his book talks about the way that you can shift your own behaviors and your own habits and routines so that 95% is not preventing or stopping or digging up the seed that you planted during the 5%. I have found this book absolutely remarkable. It's actually the book that I read and then decided to start putting daily joys into my own life, which, if you're not familiar, daily joys are a list of things that you just enjoy doing that are relatively small, and then you pick some off of that list and you actually add them to your day. You make a conscious effort to do things that bring you joy. Take a bubble bath, have a beautiful glass of tea, sit out in the sunshine, read a remarkable book, listen to some really awesome uplifting music, whatever it is, but you are making a choice that you're doing this for yourself. So join me as I dive into Richard Dott's 955 Code. Welcome to your Mindset Motivation. I am Cecilia Hendricks, and I'm super excited today because I'm going to actually pull out from one of my favorite books by Richard Dotts, which is The 955 Code. If you're not familiar with Richard Dotts, he is a more modern writer who talks about his process through getting beyond his kind of own stuck points. That's what the 955 Code is really about, is he refers to them as stuck points that he had. And essentially you could look at those as like a limiting belief or a block that you have in anything that you're trying to change in your life. And really what his premise is that if you are having some issues in getting an area of your life to change, it's likely because you're hung up on some stuck points or some sort of belief that you're holding on to that you're not wanting to release, or you're not even aware is there, so you're not able to release it. And so when you're able to think around that and think of the possibilities that are actually available to you and the multitude of possibilities that could happen, that you can really release that and open up the good that can come into your own life. And I think we all have these stuck points. We all have hang-ups in certain areas of our life that we're trying to see a dramatic shift or even just a small shift in. But when you're able to identify what areas you have stuck points, then you can actually start to pay attention to them. And I don't feel like you have to pay so much attention to them that you're giving them more life. But when you say, okay, I've clearly had a bit of a struggle in XYZ area of my life, I want to pay more attention to the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that I have around this area so that I can make some dramatic shifts, so that I can pay attention to my own thought processes. I can pay attention to the way that I'm talking to myself when it comes to this area, and maybe some beliefs that I'm holding on to that are preventing me from moving forward. And if you're part of my own email list, then recently you actually received from me a very vulnerable email where I shared that I struggle, with my own fears. I struggle with my own concerns about my own success in sharing this kind of information, and do stop myself from being able to do it to the extent that I believe that I can, because I've got these kind of stuck points that I'm holding on to, and it's fear of judgment, and it's fear of people thinking that I'm weird. And I definitely have to overcome that. This is something that I hold on to, and I realize that about myself. And I know that this is something that I'm doing to myself, and that I'm limiting my own gift and my own sparkle, because I don't want to have this judgment that's passed upon me from people that I know. But again, something that I've shared on the podcast multiple times is that you're only able to change something once you become aware of it. So I'm aware of what this stuck point is for me. I'm aware of what I'm holding on to that's really limiting me being able to go to this next level. It's limiting me being able to take this next step. And just because I'm aware of it does not mean that it's automatically going to change. It is something very ingrained in me. It definitely probably comes from some sort of childhood trauma. And I know that I'm holding on to it, and I know that I need to focus on it, and I need to release it, and not focus on it by giving it more power and believing in it and giving it my faith and my attention, but focus on it that I'm actually aware that it's there, and I know that it's preventing me from being the person that I want to be when it comes to doing the content creation and putting myself out there. I know this is what's holding me back. I can feel it, and it is blasting in my face. And I think the reason why, and the reason why I'm having this huge epiphany about it, is because that to me is God. That is God, my higher self, spirit. There's multiple different words that people use that I believe all come to the exact same person, the universe, God, our creator, that is saying, hey, it's time for you to wake up. It's time for you to move on. You're shifting into a new state where you're going to do this without the fear, without being concerned, and without limiting my own personality. Right? Like, I know that it's my time to really up level, you could call it. I am taking this next step. I can feel that it's happening. And I did take a little bit of a step back and say, okay, what is this going to look like? I need to pay attention. I need to listen to my own intuition. I need to know that this block is there. I can feel it. I know that it's there. I don't want to feed it and give it more attention, but I also don't want to try to deny it. I know that it's there, and I need to learn how to work myself around it so that I can live the type of life that I really want to live. And to be honest, to share the information that I have that I think could really help other people. I think that we all have different gifts, and finding those gifts feels really good. Like, it's almost like electrifies you. And doing this content and talking to people and getting emails and just being able to work with others and share the information that I've learned really lights me up. Like, it truly electrifies me. But I know that I'm holding myself back from my own fear of judgment, my own fears of doing something wrong or being out there too much or people thinking that I'm odd. All these fears can definitely hold me back, and I recognize them, and I know that they're part of me right now, and it's a part of me that is attempting to protect myself. So I personally feel like there are no bad parts. So even this part that feels fear is just as part of me. It's like part of my mind and part of my being that says, wait a minute, we should be a little careful. You should hold that back just a little bit, because there's something in your past that has created this brainwave wire connection to say we need to be careful so that we don't get judged. And that's what Richard Dotts talks about a lot in the book, is how you can overcome these holdups, he calls them stuck points. So manifestation stuck points. And he talks about that really allowing yourself to see the possibility, and then also spending your time in a better way when you're not doing a specific technique is really the key to changing your life and having something more in your life. Because what I realized is that if I had something that I wanted and I was living the life that I wanted, I would shift from this wanting state to a having state. And this is talked about a lot, right? In this community, this is what people talk about. And often that message can be a little convoluted or difficult to understand, at least in my opinion. When I was first getting started, I was like, well, but I still do want that. So how can I not want it and still want it? Like, this to me did not make any sense. And that's when I started the process of the daily habits and my daily joys and how I was spending my own routines. Because if I was this person and I had this thing, what would I behave like outside of this external condition, right? So if I wanted a specific kind of relationship, or if I wanted a specific amount in my bank account, there would be certain ways that I would behave and not behave in my everyday life, in the ways that I was thinking, in the ways that I was talking to myself, in the ways that I was spending my mornings and my evenings, in the way that my house looked, in the way that I put myself together, and how often I was showering, and how often I was taking care of myself and getting my nails done and doing massages and whatever else it is that comes onto this list of how I'm taking care of myself. But there is a release, and the more that you work towards it, the more that you have faith in the unseen. And it actually is a very subtle shift when you go from wanting something to just having a faith in the unseen that that is already done, that that is a possibility and that is available to you. And by letting go and releasing of that desperation to have it, it just releases this feeling and it becomes much more calm. And then it allows that to flow into your life. And it really can start with the way that you're spending your time, the way that you are talking to yourself, the inner conversations that you're having, your emotional reactions. And so when you remove your focus away from whatever external event you're looking for, and instead put it onto your own personal ways that you're treating yourself and how you feel internally, you'll see massive shifts. And this is why I want to reiterate something I say on a lot of my episodes. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. Self-care, self-love, working on your self-concept, your own personal self-worth is not selfish. And if you're only able to find small pockets of time, then you're able to find small pockets of time. But you giving to yourself, loving yourself, putting yourself first, making sure that you're filling your cup is not selfish, it's self-preservation. You are taking care of you so that you can actually give more to the world. The more that you have, the more that you can give, and there is nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. And if you feel that there is, then I would say that's probably one of your own stuck points. You may be holding on to a fear, either a fear of judgment, a fear of change, a fear of the unknown, whatever it is. But if you're not willing to give to yourself and you're always finding a reason why you can't, that you don't have time for it, that there's nothing that you can think of that you would enjoy, that's just your part of you that's holding on to what is your current reality and what's currently going on. And remember, our brains are creatures of comfort. We want to stay in the same position that we're in. We don't want things to change. Even if outwardly we're like, this sucks and I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to have change in my life. But you could still have this underlying holding yourself back because of some sort of fear. And that's likely your stuck point. And to be human, I'm telling you, we have some of the weirdest ways that we work the more that you look at it, where it's like, well, I want this thing, but I'm technically, truly preventing myself from having it. And I find myself in the same position. There's some things that are super easy to change and I can pull those into my identity and see shifts very, very quickly. And then other things that there's a part of me that's like, wait, we don't want to do that. We're a little scared. And on that note, let me go ahead and jump into Richard's book. So again, it is Richard Dot's The 955 Code. I'll put a link to where you can buy this down below. I believe it's only in Kindle version, but I could be wrong. So Richard says, if I were to summarize the key to fast and effective manifestations in one sentence, it would be this. Think around your manifestation stuck points that continually trip you up on the inside. Do whatever you can to think around them. That's all there is to it. There is no big secret out there which you have to pay money to learn, no esoteric techniques that are somehow withheld from you which you have to spend years of spiritual practice trying to master. The essence of manifesting your desires can be eloquently expressed in one single sentence. Manifestation is about learning how to think around your manifestation stuck points, plain and simple. Once you have learned how to think around them, things will never be the same for you again. And my personal take in this is that really anything that we're doing, we're thinking around our current state, right? So whenever you're trying to change something and you're putting processes in, I don't want you to think that you have to put a ton of attention or focus into every time thinking around a stuck point. It's really learning where you may be held up or beliefs that you're holding on to. Being aware of those, being open to those, accepting them as just a part of you. They're nothing that you have to fight or be frustrated with. And they probably come from something that happened years ago to you. So your body and your mind is attempting to protect you now by preventing you from changing or from going out and doing this thing. So you don't need to be so focused on it that thinking like, I've got to figure out my stuck points. They can be very small and very little and just something that you're doing within your day that you're holding yourself up. But this is kind of the key to his book, is saying, how do I think around those? And really any technique that you do when you're focusing on changing an area of your life, you're thinking around your current limitations. And that's kind of something to think about here, is that you don't have to make this a huge practice. And actually his book is talking about not making it a huge practice and learning how to spend your time a little bit better so that you're not constantly thinking about this thing that you want. So I'm going back to his writing. Of course, doing so isn't going to be easy at first glance. The reason why you may have those stuck points in the first place is because you perceive them as actual obstacles and limitations standing between yourself and your desires. In other words, they are all very real reasons as to why you cannot have what you want. But remember that all limitations are self-imposed, and no matter how real those limitations may seem to you at any moment, they can be dissolved and the situation changed. On the contrary, the more you allow yourself to be transfixed by the illusion of those limitations, the more you solidify them permanently in place through your continued focus on them, and make it extremely difficult for yourself to experience an alternative reality where your desires are already manifest. The easiest way to dissolve any perceived limitations, no matter what they may be, is to find creative ways to think around them instead of constantly trying to fight against them and deny their existence. Therefore, manifesting anything is always an inner exercise in mental focus. When you allow yourself to straighten out the kinks on the inside, no matter how long you've had them, your outer manifestations have to follow. This process is part of our universal creative laws that are always unfailing and dependable, no matter what you are trying to create. If you are also a follower of Neville Goddard, I will say this is very in line with what Neville teaches, just in different words. And that's the best part, I think, about finding other teachers and reading other books who have the same premise but are kind of telling it in a different way, especially if you're trying to figure out how to get around something and you're kind of struggling with your own process and understanding and figuring it out. Sometimes just somebody saying it a little bit differently can make a huge shift in the way that you understand, comprehend, and are able to put into practice of your own life. But Neville often says all things are possible to God. And of course, that's in the Bible as well, right? All things are possible to God. And actually, if I read that verse, it says, "But Jesus behold their thoughts and said unto them, with men this is impossible. But if they forsake all things for my sake, with God, whatever so things I speak are possible." And what this is saying here is that, yes, if you were just man, there are so many things that you would not be able to change in your life. But we're not. We actually have this really greater power that we're able to tap into, pray to, and focus to, and actually change the events of our own life. We have the ability to make a choice in our direction that we're headed because everything is possible. Creation is finished. It is all there for you. It's really a selective state of what am I going to focus on? Where am I going to put my attention? And how am I going to spend my personal days? And my faith and belief in relationship with God is now stronger than it has ever been in my entire life. And it's the most beautiful, relaxing feeling. And I feel God at all times. Everything is God. Everything in this world, all things around me, everything that comes to me are all possible through God. And with that, Neville has said multiple times that there is nothing that is a limitation to you currently, that there is no turmoil that you're in now that cannot be overcome, that cannot be shifted into a new state. And I realize that that is putting it very simply when you are living something that is maybe very overwhelming, grief focused, or is all consuming. And I don't want to diminish those feelings because I think a lot of times it comes across like it is diminishing the feelings. So if you're feeling right now that you are in a very overwhelming situation that you're trying to figure your way out of, or you want to make changes to your life that you just cannot see the process or the way through because things are so overwhelming, because there is grief or depression or issues that you're having within your life, this is not to diminish those, but it is to say that anything that you're going through can be changed. There is nothing that is happening that has to be forever. And that sometimes can be a little bit of an overwhelming concept to understand, but it doesn't. Time continues to go on for us. We continue to shift in our belief in our processes and things that we're doing, our thoughts, our states, our identity. We continue to shift. So nothing has to stay the same as it is today or the same that it was yesterday. You are able to make some changes within your life, no matter how small you start. And actually the best way to start is very small. Now, if you're feeling like you want to hurt yourself or hurt others, or you really just cannot find a way out of this, I definitely recommend that you reach out to a licensed therapist in your local area or somebody that you can talk to online from, that's a licensed therapist. But that could be the answer to you overcoming some of the things that are very overwhelming. Talking to a therapist can actually be one of the best things that you can do. And I have found that for myself. I have gone to therapy multiple times and I like having somebody to talk to. I like having someone who is unbiased and is able to be a third party. And look into the ways that I'm behaving, the things that I'm doing. And it actually identifies a lot of blocks that I'm holding myself back with. So don't feel shame in that. Don't think that you can't reach out to somebody, because there are some remarkable therapists out there who can provide you some insight that could really help you move forward. And so I want to go back to Richard's book because he's talking about your intention and setting an intention. So he says, after you've set your intentions and become clear on them, let them go. Immediately go do something else, which means go about your day in the usual manner, doing what you normally have to do. I like to fully immerse myself in either work or play, as I find this frees my mind from thinking about my intentions and desires frequently. I now know that they are taken care of by the safe hands of the universe, and that universal forces have already been set into motion in response to my intentions and desires. So what more is there for you to worry about? In the moment that you get clear about something, it is done. What you should do after setting your intentions and desires during the 5% or less of your day is to immerse yourself wholeheartedly into living life to the fullest. If you are currently engaged in any job or livelihood, put your heart and mind into your job and perform it to the best of your abilities. And this is a spot where I want to stop, because this is why I talk about daily joys. This is why I talk about adding things of joy to your own life. Because once you have that intention set, once you've decided on this thing that you want, you've outlined your desire, you know where your focus is, you've put your attention on it, and you have set this intention and you're just releasing it, the best thing that you can do is to go enjoy your life. We are here and have the ability to have these remarkable experiences. The more you start to focus on those beautiful experiences to the smallest scale, the more that things just start to flow into your life. And I can say this because I've seen it myself. When I focus on how much fun it is to go play pickleball and just enjoy myself in that moment out in the sunshine, laughing with my kids, enjoying myself. And when I spend time really enjoying smelling a flower and paying attention to how cool it is that even this flower began from the ground, grew up through this dirt, bloomed, and then ended up having this remarkable smell that I am actually created brilliantly to be able to smell. Like I have a nose that is able to actually smell the flower. It's amazing when I think about these small miracles that are around us every single day. When I sit and like pet my dog, I think about how remarkable it is that he was born many years ago. He ended up on the path that he was in and then ended up in our home because we just love him so much. And his path was kind of a weird one that, he ended up being born in a shelter, a high kill shelter down in New Mexico, was picked up by a rescue here in Colorado. They brought him up. He kind of went from foster home to foster home. We met him when he was about 6 months old. We were actually trying to get a different dog, but ended up with him, and he's perfect. Like he is so perfect for our family. And I'm saying this after he chewed part of my bathroom door this weekend. So he's still totally perfect. We love him to bits. But it's neat when you think about how these things come into your awareness, how they come together, how the people that you meet and the experiences that you have all flow together, and that you're able to taste things, and that you're able to feel things, and that you're able to hear and smell, and that you have these experiences that the more that you focus on them, the more like electrifying they are. The more you focus on the simplicity of life and how enjoyable it can be, the bigger and better it gets. So before we close out for today, I do want to read one more part of his book that I just love. It says, I like to do something completely different after I have set my intentions. Deliberate distraction is often the key here so that intruding thoughts have no chance to occupy my awareness. For example, I like to bring myself to beautiful places for a stroll, or to engage myself in one of my hobbies wholeheartedly. The 2 or 3 hours you spend engaging in your hobbies without a care for the world creates an opening through which the universe can work its magic and dissolve any self-imposed boundaries or limitations, simply because you are no longer insisting on their existence or your continued focus on them. This is key, which is why I keep returning to the same point over and over again. Do whatever you can to take your mind off what you've just asked for. And the universe responds in the most beautiful way possible. Therefore, taking a walk and engaging in any form of physical exercise in which you are too engaged to think about anything else is often a good way to take your mind off things for a while. Pick up jogging, cycling, swimming, or a sport if you have to. 1 hour of engaging in moderately vigorous sporting activities not only does wonders for your health, but also your manifestations. I am living proof of it. And so Richard says he's living proof, and I can tell you that I'm living proof as well. So I hope that you picked up something from this. Definitely go grab Richard's book. It's a really good one. It's my favorite out of the ones that I've read of his. I absolutely love the 955 code, and I go back to it often. I just find it really motivating. I always find new little tidbits that I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. What great information. And I do believe in the power of putting time into yourself, making sure that you're enjoying life, paying attention to the fun things that you can do, that you have the ability to do because of this brilliant life that we get to lead. So I hope you have a wonderful week. I will definitely be back on Wednesday. I know last week that I was not. I apologize. I had some mic issues that I had to get fixed. And so I had to wait on that. But I will be back this Wednesday. And again, I hope you have the most beautiful week. If you have any questions, if you're listening on YouTube, pop them down in the comments below. Otherwise, go ahead and shoot me an email, unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. And I usually respond within a couple days. I am only checking that email Monday through Thursday, just so you're aware. But I will definitely get back to you. Have a great Monday. Thank you so much again for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely please share it out with your network. That is truly one of the best compliments that you can give me. And if you have a moment, if you could please rate and review the episode, that definitely helps me get out to more people.